Hello and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And now that the Super Bowl is over, we turn our attention to the offseason. And the first domino to fall in the offseason is coaching changes. Coaches getting fired, coaches getting hired, and everything in between. And there has been a huge shakeup in the landscape of the NFL coaching world. 9 teams let go of their head coaches, and all 9 of them have found new ones. So we are going to break down the new head coaching hires and some important coordinator and assistant coach hires because those are also interesting as well. But without further ado, Tim, are you ready to go?
Let's run it.
We are going to run it indeed. So the first head coach that found a job was former Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett. He found a home with the Denver Broncos after they let go of Vic Fangio after a subpar season. Hackett has a lot of experience as an offensive coordinator. He was the spearhead of the Packers' high-flying attack with Rodgers, Jones, Adams. That has led them to 3 straight 13-win seasons and 3 consecutive postseason appearances. And I wish there were more to that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now, the Broncos come in and they get a offensive-minded head coach to potentially, develop their quarterback a little more or upgrade in some cases. So, Tim, what do we think of this hire?
It's definitely an interesting hire, but I think it can definitely work out to be a good one for them because as they showed, the defensive coordinator to head coach hire wasn't a great fit for them throughout the entirety of Vic Fangio's stay in Denver. And they desperately, you could see from this past season, the offense is what they could not figure out. They got such a great start to the beginning of the season, but it's because their defense was playing really well and their offense was playing well enough. But they really need someone to help come in and kickstart that offense. And it's very possible that Nathaniel Hackett could be that guy.
Yeah, I think as far as the Broncos go, they have a very talented roster on both sides of the ball, both offense and defense. They have skilled players at, almost every important position except quarterback. They need an upgrade at quarterback now, and whether it's developing or acquiring a quarterback, I think Nathaniel Hackett can definitely help do that. Now, Tim, you mentioned defensive coordinators to head coaches. And this next one that we are going to mention definitely is that. The Chicago Bears, who have long struggled with Matt Nagy, the offensive-minded coach, Matt Nagy, turn around and hire a different Matt. Indianapolis Colts defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus has landed in the Windy City and is now going to lead the Chicago Bears for the foreseeable future. That look on your face definitely means something, and I can't wait to find out what it is.
I just don't think he's the answer. Coming from
Blunt.
A Bears fan,
a Bears fan.
I do
Wow.
not think he's the answer for this team.
Really?
The biggest thing is I get the fact that the sort of Matt Nagy experiment of offensive coordinator to head coach didn't work, but it didn't work because he just couldn't figure out how to work his pieces. The defense has not been the problem. Even since Nagy's time has been there, the defense has been what's held them afloat. Also, the biggest red flag for me throughout this head coaching hiring process for this new Bears management was when coming from Colts fans that I know personally, as well as seeing
because we are very much in the market where it's right in between Indianapolis and Chicago. So we know a large amount of Colts fans and a large amount of Bears fans. And then there are the greatest people in the world that are Packers fans, but that's neither here nor there. So
yeah, we're gonna ignore the fact that you just tried to slide that in there. But from the biggest
I didn't
red
try,
flag
I did.
for me,
Packers fans are great people.
The biggest red flag for me from all of this was hearing from Colts fans that I know and seeing the general response that Colts fans are thrilled to get rid of him.
Yup.
They don't want him. They're like, thank you. Also, what I don't understand is the Bears interviewed like 9 or 10 guys for this job. And so
it was an expensive coaching search.
Yes, and somehow it fell onto Matt Eberflus, the guy that I wanted for the job, that I thought that was the best pick. They interviewed him twice, but for some reason didn't pick him. Jim Caldwell. I don't understand, because I really think that matching the veteran coaching presence of Jim Caldwell with a young quarterback in Justin Fields, with a new young general manager of Ryan Poles, I thought that was going to be a great fit. But instead, I just don't understand what made him. I believe I saw something, the fact that Ryan Poles liked Eberflus's vision for the team. I'm like, yeah, you can talk a good talk, but is he going to be able to do anything with the team? Exactly. What does that mean? What do you think he's actually going to be able to do it? Or do you just like that he talks nice things? But either way, I mean, we'll see how it turns out.
I say good thing, I have good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. You could tell that I'm very frustrated by the hire, because I was looking forward when they hired Ryan Poles. I was like, okay. When they hired Ryan Poles, I'm like, okay, this has the potential to be a start of a new decent era for this Bears organization, because I thought that he had the ability, because now he had the choice of making all these hires and whatnot. And then he went and made this decision. All of a sudden, I'm in doubt all over again. But we'll see. It's possible I could be completely wrong. It's possible that Eberflus could be the weird missing piece that the Bears couldn't seem to put together. But I'm not hopeful. I'm just not.
What are the odds we revisit What's Wrong with the Chicago Bears and make a sequel to that video?
And you know what?
Go watch the original.
Yes, at some time we'll see how this next season goes. Maybe even mid-season, you may be seeing another one of those.
Yeah, well,
the new era.
The new era of the Chicago Bears starts with Matt Eberflus. After that, the New York Giants found their man with the firing of Joe Judge. They turned it over to highly touted coaching prospect, former Bills offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll. Now, for me, this is a very intriguing hire. I think I like it for the Bills, not for the Bills. What am I saying?
Not for the Bills. The Bills probably don't like losing him.
Yeah, no, the Bills don't like losing him. The Giants love gaining him, because Brian Daboll spearheaded the Josh Allen, explosive Stephon Diggs, Buffalo Bills offense. And now he's going to try to bring that to the Giants with Saquon Barkley. How it works, though, is definitely TBD, because you still have Daniel Jones at quarterback. So I think their success is going to be tied to what, Brian Daboll and Giants management does at quarterback, if they think Daniel Jones is the answer or if they go somewhere else. So I definitely think it can work both ways, but it's definitely one of the more intriguing hires in this coaching carousel cycle.
Yeah, for sure. I think in terms of team need and the head coach that was hired, I think he was probably one of the best fits out of the 9 that was chosen. Because clearly the Giants this past season were in offensive just mess. There was no saving them.
Well, especially after Daniel Jones got hurt and you had to rotate between Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm, and then you're sneaking
it was not
on 3rd and 9, and oh boy.
Yeah, but this team desperately needs help on offense. And I honestly think that Daboll could be a guy who could sort of just do a massive shakeup of the system, because they need something different. And also, I think what you talked about is he was one of the guys that, I'm not sure if he necessarily quite worked with him directly, but he was a big part of the massive increase in performance of Josh Allen over in Buffalo. So it's interesting to see whether or not maybe he will be able to help out Daniel Jones, sort of at least work with him, play to his strengths, and not try to stretch him too thin in the ways that he struggles. So I think they could definitely end up working out well, because the Giants definitely had it figured out on defense for the most part this past year. So if they can get their offense figured out, you never know what can happen with that team.
Yeah, the Giants have just been kind of directionless for the last few years. So hopefully Brian Daboll can come in and give this team some sort of direction and some sort of future.
A vision,
right? After that, for the confusing season that the Las Vegas Raiders had with John Gruden and Rich Bisaccia, they landed on former Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels to be their next head coach. And whether they botch this one or not is going to depend on how the Raiders do, because there were a lot of people that wanted Rich Bisaccia to be retained. because of all of the crap
It's
that the
hard to
Raiders
argue with
went
that.
through. Rich Bisaccia
He
kept
turned
the
him
ship
around
afloat,
massively.
turned it around, and led them to a playoff berth. Even with 7 teams per conference, it's still an impressive feat with the amount of drama and the amount of bullcrap
You've
that the
got you've
Raiders
got
had to
drama.
go
You've
through.
got losing players right and left. It's definitely hard to navigate through, and I thought he did a particularly good job.
Yeah. So Josh McDaniels is a hire. Interesting. Tell me more. We'll see how this plays out as the Raiders go through the next couple of seasons. So it can go either way.
Yeah, this one I definitely agree can go either way. I think it definitely has the upside. I don't hate it. It's questionable to where there's like, will it actually work out? It's one that I think that has the potential to, but also has the potential to fail pretty quickly. Whether or not Josh McDaniels has the sort of ability to lead that team, but I mean, he did some good work as the Patriots offensive coordinator. One of the things I think that would be most to his credit is his ability to play to Mac Jones's strength. He made a rookie quarterback look very solid at times and led them all the way to the playoffs and whatnot. So depending on whether or not the Raiders are able to retain Derek Carr or whether or not they have to go to a different option.
That's the other thing.
It's
Derek
like,
Carr
it depends on
working.
what you're going to have to work with. If you're working with the quarterback that's already been there, or if you have to bring an entirely new guy and you guys got to build chemistry together on the team.
I think if the Raiders know what's good for them, they keep Derek Carr and sign him to that.
I imagine they want to try
that
their
they're
best.
working on currently, because a common theme with a lot of these teams that were looking for head coaches was a lack of a dependable or proven quarterback. Because, right, you look at the Broncos, they need to upgrade. The Bears, Justin Fields isn't proven yet.
Definitely not proven.
Yeah. The Giants, they have Daniel Jones, a lot of question marks there. The Raiders have Derek Carr, a former Pro Bowl quarterback, and in my opinion is one of the upper echelon of quarterbacks. So that is,
I think he's been lost in the past couple of years.
He definitely has.
Underrated
Derek Carr is
with
good.
The team around him.
Derek Carr is good, and he deserves a lot of credit for that playoff berth as well. So how that goes, we'll see. But after that, we'll move to the Minnesota Vikings, where they let go of Mike Zimmer, which was a long time coming. We went over that in our What's Wrong with the Minnesota Vikings video. That was one of the main points that Andrew made. Go watch that. And they brought in Rams offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell. Slam dunk for the crap that the Vikings had with their head coaching search, where for a second, it almost looked like they were going to hire Jim Harbaugh from Michigan. And that was going to be huge. And then they fumbled that bag. But then you turn around and go, oh, wait, Kevin O'Connell's coming. And Kevin O'Connell just came off of a Super Bowl victory with the Rams in an offense where you had the offensive player of the year and the Super Bowl MVP, with a quarterback in his first season that played outside of his mind in the playoffs, and you get a ring out of it. So for the Vikings and the offensive talent that they have, Kirk, Cook, Thielen, Jefferson. Make your offense even stronger, and then get a defensive guy in there that can really, shore up that defense, because that was one of the problems with the Vikings last year. I think this is one of the best head coaching hires out of the circuit. Plain and simple.
In terms of teams and the talent they have for a brand new head coach, doesn't get much better than this, especially for an offensive mind like Kevin O'Connell. The one thing that I think we do have differing opinions on is I don't believe it is a slam dunk. I think it is a good hire. It definitely has potential. But part of the reason I'm not entirely convinced is I do believe that O'Connell is a little bit, not entirely, but a little bit unproven on how much of the success for the Rams was McVay's offensive mastermind or his. because McVay was the play caller for the Rams. So for him being the offensive coordinator, he was an offensive play caller. So I do still believe he's a very good coordinator and a good hire, but I think he is still unproven in his ability to lead a team, to lead that offense. So I think it's more of about, to me, 60-40, 65-35, whether or not he'll have at least immediate good success with this team.
But I think my counterpoint to that is, if you want immediate coaching success, right? If you want a quick turnaround fast, you look to the Sean McVay tree of coaching.
Yeah, no, without a doubt.
Matt LaFleur. He look at him. Bruce Staley with the Chargers. He has that team going in the right direction if they can fix a couple things, right? Mm-hmm. So if there is a sort of pool to look from, where are you going to go? Are you going to look for like former head coaches? Are you going to look for are you going to look in-house, which thank God the Vikings didn't look in-house, because a lot of nepotism in-house. A lot of nepotism. That's what you find. But you have, assistants from the McVay, Shanahan, Vrabel tree, and you're going, this could work.
Yeah.
So
I don't think they made a bad decision at all. I'm not convinced yet. I'm waiting to be proven right, essentially. I do think it's a good hire, but I'm not necessarily sure yet if I think it's going to be 100% a success.
Yeah. And if this doesn't age well, sorry, Vikings fans. Anyway, moving on. The next head coach to be hired was found in Duval County, the Jacksonville Jaguars, after their tumultuous season. Urban Meyer and Darrell Bevell turn into, drum roll please, Doug Pederson.
Woo!
Doug Pederson.
What a guy.
Oh boy. The Jaguars, for a while, looked like Brian Leftwich, the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was going to be the next head coach until he wasn't. And okay, you go back to the drawing board and you get Doug Pederson. Okay, let's rewind and let's review this. Doug Pederson won a Super Bowl, and the end of the tenure in Philadelphia did not really go well. However, I think it's an upgrade from what the Jaguars had, because what their problem was is that they had no culture. They had no vision. They had no sense of direction.
Had much leadership at the top.
All they had was a good-looking rookie quarterback with silky, long, flowing hair. That's about all they had. Doug Pederson, is he going to succeed? We don't know, but he'll try his hardest. He'll try his hardest to establish some sort of positive culture and some sort of positive direction and some sort of positive influence for this Jaguars team. And with what they've had to deal with over the past couple of years, I think that's really all you can ask for.
Anything.
Just a fresh start. So I'm iffy on this hire, but I don't hate it, because he's going to bring some things. He's going to try being the operative word, to bring some things that the Jaguars need. Whether he's able to do it, TBD.
Yeah, I think some of what they were looking for is a coach with some of that like veteran stability, because they need to create that culture. I mean, to Doug Pederson's credit, he is a Super Bowl winning head coach, but also against that, I don't really think the Eagles winning that Super Bowl was because of Doug Pederson. In terms of what, like, my initial reaction to this hire was, he's not a bad coach, I don't think, but in terms of bringing in a coach to turn around a franchise, to turn around a team that doesn't seem to have much going for them, I just don't see Doug Pederson as that guy.
Well, who knows? Maybe
once again, he's got some upside. He's got the ability to at least bring like stability to a team that desperately had absolutely none of that this past season. So I think they will improve, but I don't think he is their long-term answer in terms of bringing the Jaguars back into prominence.
I really don't think they're searching for a long-term answer right now. Like, what is this, the case? Yeah. Like, what does this team need? You're trying to find a silver lining in all of the drama over the past 3 years that they've had. Just a sense of direction. All the Jaguars need.
Yeah,
and now
can't ask for much.
After that, we are going to turn to the Miami Dolphins. And after, for some reason, firing Brian Flores, they hired San Francisco offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel. Tim, what do you have to make of this hire?
So I don't really feel like I know how to feel about this one, because like the charisma of Mike McDaniel and the way that he kind of holds himself definitely brings a new style to the Miami Dolphins that I don't feel like they've either had in a while or ever had. He's a very, very charismatic young guy. But I'm not sure if he has what it takes to bring this Miami Dolphins team over the hump more than what Brian Flores had. Because obviously they really struggled mightily early, but the turnaround they had was equally as massive. So it's like with them playing some of their best football right at the end of the year there, it's hard for me to understand why they wouldn't give Brian Flores at least one more year to see if he could keep that train rolling. And I'm just not sure if Mike McDaniel is going to be able to pick up where Brian Flores left off in that team. I don't think they're going to be a bad team, but I also don't think they're going to necessarily reach the potential heights that if Brian Flores had kept working his way of running that team into this upcoming season, maybe he could have figured out a few more things and actually put together a good winning season. It's always a maybe though, because granted, I mean, he struggled at the beginning of the season. So what was the magic that got him to turn around in the first place? Or was it luck or guys just playing it well at the right time?
I mean, whether that was a weaker schedule or, this, that, and the other, Brian Flores we don't know why Brian Flores was fired until the hubbub with the lawsuit. And then it becomes perfectly clear why he was fired. And that is just a mess in and of itself. And it ties back to the Giants and the Broncos and the Browns and especially the Dolphins. And that can be a topic for a different video when all that dust settles, because it's definitely
so
worth
much more
taking
that we don't know for sure yet. A lot is still in the he said, she said phase.
Yeah. But the impacts of it could be absolutely disastrous if that comes to pass. Anyway, the future of the Dolphins will definitely be a huge question mark with Mike McDaniel taking the helm. Now we go to the dumpster fire that is the Houston Texans. Sorry, Texans fans, but you guys are a mess. You hire David Culley, you fire him after a year, you have all the drama with Deshaun Watson, and then you finally settle on a more expensive version of David Culley, which happens to be University of Illinois head coach Lovie Smith. They brought in Santa Claus.
Well, previous Illinois head coach, because he was actually in the Texans system for a year. So,
oh, well, and he does have NFL head coaching experience as the head coach of the Chicago Bears. He did reach the Super Bowl many, many moons ago in 2006. But gosh, the Texans, they're a disaster. I mean,
starting from the top down, it's just a iffy franchise.
From the ownerships to the GM to the head coaching decision to the play on the field, it's just, are you trying? Are you trying to get better, or are you just failing upward? I think that's an interesting way to put it, but it's all I got for Houston. That's a hire where you definitely scratch your head and you're like, all right, so what does this bring? We have no idea, but oh well.
Yeah, in my opinion, I don't view it as a terrible hire. I think they could have done worse. He was promoted from.
They could have done better.
Oh yeah, he was promoted from the associate head coach position and defensive coordinator position from this past year. And he definitely, like you said, he does have the head coaching experience in the NFL. He was not bad with the Bears. He led them to a Super Bowl, in fact. But his journey down to college football was a massive failed experiment. He did very poorly with Illinois. Not exactly sure why, whether it's just the difference in sort of the culture environment, but bringing him back up to the NFL seemed to sort of revitalize him a little bit, because the Texans defense wasn't terrible this year. He was able to do some decent things with them. But once again, I don't think this was a hire that needed to be made, not because of the specific hire. I don't think they should have fired David Culley.
Yeah, why'd they fire David Culley?
I think the magic that man pulled out of the hat to bring this Texans team to a couple of wins should have been lauded by most of the NFL sphere. I think that he definitely should have been retained and given a chance with a potentially slightly improved roster to do some damage, because they definitely put together a couple of decent games and had some wins that almost no one thought that they were going to have this year. So I think it was.
They crushed the Chargers, which nobody saw coming.
Yeah, I have no idea how some of those happened, but I think he deserved another chance. So I, once again, don't think it's a terrible hire, but not one that needed to be made, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the final head coaching change that was made happened with the New Orleans Saints in the Big Easy, when Sean Payton stepped down after 16 years as head coach. Sean Payton was a very well-respected and tenured coach in the NFL, won a Super Bowl, the Saints' only Super Bowl in 2009, and he will be sorely missed on the sidelines in New Orleans. In steps in defensive coordinator Dennis Allen, and with the New Orleans Saints reaching in-house, we'll see how that affects them, whether they're going to continue to wander in no man's land of mediocrity, or if Dennis Allen can recapture that formula that the Saints, made the playoffs with. Championship windows open and close very, very quickly. But depending on what the Saints do, especially a quarterback, and how Dennis Allen directs this team, who knows? Maybe they could be back in contention with the NFC South, because the NFC South is a bunch of question marks, and it's quite frankly wide open for any team that wants it. So we'll see how Dennis Allen does.
Yeah. In my opinion on this one, I think this hire was a mistake. I understand he has been part of this organization for a while. He's been their defensive coordinator for the past 7 seasons, in which he has been able to build a pretty strong defense, who has had some pretty good success over this past season. Some of their statement wins were ones that were brought upon by their defensive performance. But in terms of what they needed to fix, I don't see how he's going to help them solve that. In my opinion, one guy that I thought should have been almost a lock for this position, who was another one that actually didn't even end up getting hired at all, was Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy. I thought that would be a very good fit for this team, in the fact of needing to build some of that offense, keep Dennis Allen on that D coordinator position that he's built such a strong defense with. And I don't understand why that promoting that defensive coordinator head coach is going to help fix the problems in their offense, because their offense was their biggest weak point this year. Obviously, losing Jameis was tough for them, because they felt like they had
not having Michael Thomas at all.
Yeah. So
Michael
you definitely
Thomas
had
should return.
Some big pieces that were just completely non-factors throughout the year. But I don't know. I just think that they had better options, and I think it would be a better fit for Dennis Allen to stay at D coordinator, because he has had previous head coaching experience, 2012 through 2014 with which I guess was the Oakland Raiders at the time. He was 8-28. Now, granted, I don't know the state of the team of the Oakland Raiders at that exact point in time.
That was a long time ago.
But either way, he hasn't had a whole lot of success at the head coaching position, and I think he would have been a better fit staying as D coordinator.
I agree that Eric Bieniemy would have been the better hire, but I don't think Eric Bieniemy wants to leave Kansas City. I think he's perfectly satisfied staying fit where he's at, because
he did an interview with literally 9 or 8 out of the 9 teams that had a head coaching
for the 3rd year in a row, mind you. He has had chances upon chances upon chances of being a head coach somewhere else.
It is very possible he just doesn't want to.
He just doesn't want to. And I think it's very possible that when Andy Reid finishes up for the Chiefs, that Eric Bieniemy will be the next in line. And why wouldn't you want to take over that job? You have Patrick Mahomes for the next decade and a half.
A long time.
Yeah, and they've hosted the last 4 AFC championships, and you can win a championship now and for years to come. So for Eric Bieniemy, why would you want to leave? It makes total sense. But as far as Dennis Allen goes, we'll see. A lot of these head coach hires, giant maybes. Some that we like, some that we don't. But that's the landscape of the NFL. It could work out. It might not work out. So now I kind of want to take a look at some assistant coach hires, 2 in particular that are relatively notable. Former head coaches that were head coaches last year getting hired as assistants somewhere else. And the first one, Rich Bisaccia, the interim head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders, quickly landed with the Green Bay Packers as their special teams coach, which was the position that he had previously held in the Raiders organization. Now, as much as I said that Kevin O'Connell was a slam dunk, if Rich Bisaccia isn't a slam dunk for the Packers, then I don't know what is, because we talked in our What's Wrong with the Green Bay Packers video. We spent maybe, I don't know, half of that when we weren't talking about the Packers playoff failures, about how bad the special teams was and how much special teams hurt us. Here's your solution. One of the most highly respected coaches in the NFL. He was beloved in Vegas. They wanted him to be retained as the head coach in Vegas, but now he is on a coaching staff in Green Bay with Matt LaFleur, who set the record for the most wins by a head coach in 3 seasons. Adam Stenavich gets promoted to the offensive coordinator, and now you have your solution for special teams. So I think this was, with a tad bit of bias, I think this was a really great coaching hire. But Tim, what do you think?
No, on this one, actually, I have to completely agree with you, because when I saw this hire, first of all, to steal Bisaccia from the Raiders in terms of he showed a good amount of prowess as a head coach, but then obviously being brought up as a special teams coordinator to fill that gap of arguably the biggest and almost only real big problem that the Packers had. It really, I think, completes their coaching staff to put them in a very good spot. It's just a matter of course, what they can do with all of their player issues, which of course we covered.
There it is. There's the other shoe.
But
as far as special teams goes,
overall, in terms of hires, in terms of special teams, I thought this was a great hire for them. And I think he's going to be able to help them out a lot on that aspect of the game.
And he's a proven commodity. The Raiders special teams unit were in the upper echelon for the last 5 years. Daniel Carlson, who couldn't make a kick for the Vikings, comes over to Vegas and is absolutely money. AJ Cole was the first team all-pro punter. He played for Las Vegas. So if there's anybody that can turn around an absolutely porous Packers special teams unit, it is Rich Bisaccia, and I am thrilled about it. But now the next former head coach that found a job, we talked about Brian Flores, how he was inexplicably fired by Miami and then had all of the drama, has already landed.
He still managed to find a job, which I think I was actually a little surprised by.
He found a job in the Steel City. The Pittsburgh Steelers hired Brian Flores as their linebackers coach and assistant defensive coordinator, which, for as much as Brian Flores is dealing with right now, great, fantastic, right? You're dealing with a lawsuit with the NFL and 4 franchises, and you got employed. Pretty good. Yeah. It's pretty good for Brian Flores.
Yeah, for him to still find a job with all of this, I think was particularly incredible. And I think the funniest thing to me, looking at the situation overall, is for any team, any individual, I would guess, to take a risk on hiring a guy that has an open lawsuit against the NFL. Leave it to Mike Tomlin. He does not care. It would be
Pittsburgh. It would.
Mike Tomlin does not care about any of the drama surrounding that. I was like, no, how are you?
Yeah. Well, Mike Tomlin has already dealt with so much in the past.
Yeah.
7 or 8 years. What does it matter with Big Ben and everything that he went through? The Le'Veon Bell saga, the Antonio Brown saga, which we covered in What's Wrong with Antonio Brown. Another shameless plug. We're full of them today. But oh yeah, shameless. But for Mike Tomlin to say, hey, we're going to take a chance on you. Respectable for Tomlin and respectable for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not surprising either. And now Brian Flores gets to command a linebackers unit with the defensive player of the year, TJ Watt, and a Pittsburgh Steelers defense that is normally almost always really, really good. So congratulations to Brian Flores, I guess. Good job, man. You did what you could. So I think that's about all we have to cover for the NFL coaching carousel of this offseason. There is tons more to cover as the offseason continues with free agency, with draft stuff when the draft gets up and running. We did that last year. We can't wait to do it again. It'll be an absolute blast. But we have tons more content coming from you for Running the Table, and like and subscribe for more content. And until next time, we out.